All right, very important day today. All eyes keenly trained on the Supreme Court, and joining us from there is our correspondent Vijay Kao, who will be getting us minute-to-minute update as to what the Apex Court has to say on that very important issue today. Apart from that, we are joined in our studio by Zorian Cross. He's a theatre artist. Nolan Lewis, he is, or rather was the finalist at Gay International. Mohammad Mushtaq Ahmad, chairman of the India Sunni Board, is joining us, as well as Rajesh Uma Devi, LGBT activist, joining us from our Bangalore studio. And here in our Noida studio, Ankit Gupta, our correspondent, is here with us to throw light on this issue. But let me first go across to Vijay Kao very quickly to put this verdict, first of all, that we are keenly awaiting into perspective for us. Vijay, first of all, what exactly is it that the Supreme Court will decide today? Is it looking at the 2009 verdict from the High Court and the fact that it was challenged?
Well, Maha, the Supreme Court is primarily today going to decide whether or not the government or the executive has the power to decide what two consenting adults do in private. That is going to be the focus. Also, and what has been highly contended regarding this case so far is how people and how court defines as order of nature, quote unquote. And that is also something that the Supreme Court is going to give its verdict on, because the government had initially contended that such acts are against the order of nature, which has also been the crux of the petition filed, the special leave petition that had been filed before the Supreme Court by several people from different walks of life. Now, the government in 2009 had said before the Supreme Court that they do accept what the High Court had observed previously. What they also said that what is against the order of nature was being influenced by the British era rules that were formed, which were in turn influenced by colonial era notions. So therefore they agreed with what the Delhi High Court had to say. So now the Supreme Court today is going to primarily focus on two things. How do they define what is against the order of nature, and also whether the government and the executive have the power to dominate or to dictate what two consenting adults do in private. That's the crux of what the Supreme Court is going to give us today.
All right, Ankit, let me Vijay, just stay with us. Let me go across to Ankit, our correspondent, to help us understand the arguments that were placed in 2009, Ankit, and the arguments that have been placed in the Supreme Court, basis which the decision will be taken by the Apex Court today. Ankit, the order of nature that Vijay Kao was pointing out, can you help us understand how that was dealt with in 2009 by the High Court?
Maha, first of all, let me just tell you that this law was put in place by the British colonizers in the early 19th century. Now, in 1970s, the British themselves in their own country abolished this law. And in Britain, as of today, you have something called a civil union between two members of the same sex can get married, and they have all civil liberties as any other citizen under the eyes of the law. So now, putting that aside, in 2009, when the High Court came out with this, with decriminalization...
All right, Ankit, I'll just interrupt you there for a bit. We're getting breaking news that the Supreme Court has in fact quashed the order of the High Court. The order in 2009 had legitimized gays' rights. However, the High Court has set aside that order. That's the bit of breaking that's coming in at the moment from the Supreme Court. The Apex Court was to decide on whether it can legalize the rights of the gays, and today the Supreme Court has decided that the verdict of the High Court in 2009, it does not agree with. It has set that aside. What does it mean for the gay community and the LGBT community? We have with us a panel here to help us understand that. Let me first go across to Zorian Cross. He's a theatre personality. He's joining us here in the studio. Are you shocked at this verdict today?
I'm shocked, and frankly, I'm quite appalled. I mean, it just goes to show that, at the end of the day, we still have to fight all the more. But then, I guess, every victory at the end shall have its share of small losses on the way. Nevertheless, I have full faith that all the activists, as well as humanity in general, is on our side, And even if the Supreme Court won't agree to us now, eventually they will.
All right, let's get a perspective on what exactly happened in the Supreme Court today. Jaskirat is joining us with more details. Jaskirat, take us through what exactly happened in the apex court.
Well, a detailed copy of the Supreme Court order will be expected in the later half of the day. The indication that we are getting is that a very huge setback and disappointment to the LGBT community. The Supreme Court has set aside the High Court order, which had decriminalized homosexual conduct within the purview of Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. What that means is that now the Section 377 will revert back to its old position, where homosexual conduct was in fact considered to be a criminal offense. But at the same time, very importantly, the indication is also that the Supreme Court has put the ball and the onus back in the government and the legislature's court. That is one thing that did come up even during the hearing, where the Supreme Court was quite frustrated and upset at the fact that the government was continuously putting the onus on the Supreme Court into decisions that were originally, as per the Constitution, supposed to be taken by the legislature or the government. So now it is back to the government, the parliament, and the government of the day to decide or to initiate proceedings on whether or not they can actually decriminalize homosexuality.
All right, so basically, Jaskirat, what this means is that the Supreme Court says that the Parliament can take a decision on this, right?
Please. All India Muslim Personal Law Board had filed a petition before the Supreme Court. All India Muslim Personal Law Board had filed a petition before the Supreme Court challenging the judgment of the Delhi High Court, which had held that Section 377 IPC as unconstitutional. Supreme Court today has set aside the judgment of the Delhi High Court, and the Supreme Court has held that it is constitutionally valid. And it has further said that the Union of India, if they want to delete it from the statute book, they will be at liberty to do so.
हिंदी में बता दीजिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्या कहा फैसले में?
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आज अपने फैसले में दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट के जजमेंट को सेट असाइड कर दिया है और उन्होंने कहा है ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली वैलिड प्रोविजन है और अगर यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया इसको अपने स्टैट्यूट बुक से हटाना चाहती है तो उनको अपनी लिबर्टी है, लेकिन जो दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट है उस फैसले को सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने रद्द कर दिया है और 377 आईपीसी एक प्रॉपर प्रोविजन है और क्रिमिनलिटी जो उसमें इन्वॉल्व है वो रहेगी।
हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री कुछ कह रही थी, ऐसे में अदालत में सरकार फैसला ले ताकि अदालत इस मामले में
नहीं सुप्रीम the detailed judgment we have not yet examined, that is not available with us, but the Supreme Court has set aside the judgment of the Delhi High Court, which clearly shows that 377 is a valid constitutionally valid provision of law.
क्या रीजनिंग बताया गया कि दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट की ऑर्डर सेटिस्फाइड क्यों की है? दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट की ऑर्डर सेटिस्फाइड क्यों की है?
The detailed judgment is not available with us. That will be available. That we will be able to.
ठीक है, हो गया, थैंक यू।
This is a no, it's not a retrograde judgment. It's a very all the religious communities, Muslims, Christians, and all other religions had challenged the Hindus. The majority community, Hindus, the Muslims through All India Muslim Personal Law Board, and the Christians had challenged the judgment of the Delhi High Court, and the Supreme Court has held that the judgment of the Delhi High Court was wrong and it has been set aside.
सर कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशन में भी कहा, ऑब्जेक्टिव पार्ट सुनाते समय कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशन में भी कहा।
नहीं, it was a very short pronouncement, and the Honorable Justice Singhvi had only said that they are setting aside the judgment of the Delhi High Court, and they have held the 377 to be a valid constitutionally valid provision under in the IPC.
सर इसका मतलब 1861 वाला लॉ लागू होगा कि अगर कोई संबंध बनाता है समलैंगिक रजामंदी से तो वो अपराध के दायरे में आएगा, उसमें जो सजा है वो मिलेगी?
हाँ बिल्कुल, वो अपराध के दायरे में आएगा और 377 में लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट तक की सजा है और वो सजा बरकरार रहेगी। एजाज मकबूल।
Name again?
एजाज